Okay, so let's start with the obvious. Why would you want to over-engineer your home? I certainly didn't. I didn't mean to. I just really couldn't help myself. Yeah, my name is Matthias, and I think the slides are not advancing. I work at Spotify, and at Spotify at work we get to play with a lot of cool technologies. As an engineer manager, however, I don't get enough time to do that myself. So what I tend to do to compensate is I go a little bit overboard with my hobbies. One of them is my home, more specifically home automation. And it turns out home automation is the perfect playground to test new toys. So this is really the story of how I turned my home into a smart home. My journey into home automation started out quite innocently. Like for many others, I started with buying a few smart light bulbs. I bought a bunch of them, put them into the house, then felt like, now, cool, I can control them with my phone. I don't know why would you ever want to do that, but felt like I'm in control. But then I had this feeling that I needed a new challenge, right? I wanted to do more. Luckily, my children had the perfect use case for me. They said, we want the disco lights to turn on whenever the party playlist is turned on. Okay, great. I needed something that can control lights and talk to the favorite music streaming service. And yeah, what we have is Home Assistant. Home Assistant is open source, has a lot of many integrations. It can control lights, it can talk to Spotify, and on top of that, you can create your custom automations. And the best of it, you write them in YAML. So, a bit of YAML later, you have our first automation, and what this wall of text does is it tells the Home Assistant to turn on the disco lights whenever the kids start to play the music I like to Move It by will.i.am. Perfect. I'm happy, the kids are happy, and I do have that unsettling feeling that maybe my setup isn't adequate enough though. What happens if Home Assistant crashes right when the kids want to party? I wouldn't want to be in that room. I mean, disappointing a 4-year-old is the worst kind of incident. So to protect myself, I did 3 things. First thing, we have Kubernetes. And luckily, Home Assistant provides Docker images. Kubernetes gives me automatic restarts. So those 2 things combined, and one-liner kubectl run away, and I now have, and yes, it's called kubectl, by the way. Kubectl, I now have my smart home deployed. Perfect. So whenever Home Assistant would crash, Kubernetes would restart it. Of course, I didn't do it that way because YAML, right? Home Assistant and Kubernetes are heavily relying on YAML, so they're a really good match, and I feel like I'm doing my due diligence as a YAML engineer by now. We do have one problem left, and that's what if Home Assistant is up, but it kind of stops working, right? I need to monitor it in a way. And now is a good time to tell you that Home Assistant has an insane amount of integrations. It's over 1,000. There's crazy things like you can order Domino pizzas with Home Assistant, and there's useful things like exporting your metrics and your health through Prometheus. So a little bit of YAML later, I can now scrape my bedroom with Prometheus. I have a cloud-native bedroom. Now you see an example of temperature and humidity scraping. Perfect. So now we do have automatic restarts. We have monitoring almost there. We now have a pretty good setup. We do have one glaring problem still. So if one of the components would actually burn and crash, it could pull down everything with it. We have this big monolith in the middle, right? And what do we do about that? Of course, microservices. Home Assistant can talk to MQTT, that's a message queue. And by that, using that, we can actually have separate instances of Home Assistants all over the place that do single things, like one for controlling lights, one Home Assistant to play music, one for ordering pizzas, and the central control plane, if you will, on top to tie everything together. Perfect. Now I feel like the kids can party and dance, even if the pizza component crashes. I'm able to sleep calmly at night. And some people might think I did over-engineer my home. I'll let you be the judge of that. Thank you.